Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about a specific branch of vehicles in War Thunder, the US light tanks and the recently added tank destroyers. We will not be talking about the entry-level Stuart or M2A2. Let's get on to more serious machines. The first on the list is the M22 Locust. Its high mobility and low profile make it a real pain in the butt for the enemy defenses. This is not an overstatement. This tank has one of the top cruising speeds of all ground vehicles in the entire game, not to mention its unique maneuverability and extremely low hull profile. To be fair though, its small hull is not always a boon, especially when you get hit with an explosive AP shell. The tightly packed crew is usually dead in just one such explosion, because its light armor cannot stop any proper shot. Its low battle rating of 2.0 puts it mostly against early Panzers and T-34s. The Locust has a hard time fighting them, but can still defeat them if properly used. One important fact to note: the default shell of its 37mm cannon has more AP value at close range than its top shell that becomes available later through research. Though this gun has no exploding AP shells. They are all just lumps of metal, plus one type of extremely weak high explosive shells. Despite the apparent flimsiness and limited offensive ability, the M22 fulfills an important role in battle by providing its team with a timely information on the position of the enemy tanks, while hurting enemy modules with well-placed shots from afar. Next up is the M24 Chaffee. The armor here is once again paper thin. But this tank has a much bigger gun and even a more powerful engine. Despite the increased mass, this tank has very good acceleration, speed, and a very decent maneuverability. This is an ideal vehicle for urban combat, where you need to move fast and punch hard to evict an enemy from a capture point, for example. Close Encounters is the middle name of Chaffee, which otherwise is not very effective in ranged combat. Last in our list of the US light tanks is the super fast racing car of a tank, the M41A1 Walker Bulldog. Its maximum speed is at staggering 72 km per hour, while at the same time it has Chaffee's quick maneuverability. And, you guessed it, the armor is once again pretty much non-existent. But this is actually a benefit for such a high-tier vehicle, because instead of exploding inside, the shells will almost constantly over-penetrate the hull without causing any collateral damage to the modules or crew. The Bulldog's weapon is no laughing matter though. Its top sub-caliber round can penetrate Mauser's frontal armor from 800 meters away. Basically, Walker Bulldog is almost an ideal vehicle for flank attacks and quick capture of points. Bulldog's legendary mobility will not leave you wanting for more, unless you get hit by an odd, high-explosive shell, that is. We expect a major expansion in the light tank branch throughout the game, but for now, let's talk about the tank destroyers. The American engineers had a different approach to self-propelled guns. They believed that these should be maneuverable, light, and have a rotating turret. The first vehicle was the half-tracked 75mm gun motor carriage M3, which kind of resembled of the Soviet ZIS-30. M3 has the best cannon for its tier and very nice speed characteristics, plus some flaws inherent in the combined chassis of the vehicle. The half-track chassis are not ideal for turning about. M3 essentially drives like a normal car, and unlike a tank, it cannot pivot on the spot. Not to mention the cannon's mechanical actuators that are inherently slow to move the gun around, which, more often than not, makes you miss the first shot, which can prove lethal, given the M3's light armor. Up next is M10, the steel embodiment of the American tank destroyer doctrine. The M10 combines speed, a rotating turret, and some actual armor, in addition to a powerful 75mm cannon with a good AP shell. The only real flaw of this vehicle is its turret rotation speed, which is rather slow. Otherwise, we have an almost perfect anti-tank vehicle for Tier 2 battles, assuming the player is a novice. When you play, we recommend to try and take out your target's gunner first, to avoid being hit back during the direct engagement. What can we say about the Tier 3's M18 and its premium variant? Well, they're close to perfect, really. First off, these are the fastest vehicles among their kind and counterparts. Secondly, they have a somewhat low battle rating, while still having serious combat abilities. Last but not least is their short reloading time that allows them to take on the entire columns of enemy tanks. With M18, you can easily switch positions after firing. You will be the first to reach any capture points, and you will be quick to mount an effective ambush with these two vehicles. The only flaw we could think of off the top of our heads is the fact that you cannot penetrate the Tiger's front armor with their regular AP shells. That's it. The zenith of the classical American tank destroyers is the M36. It is less mobile, but much better armored, while its 90mm gun has some really good ammunition and can penetrate a mouse from over 1.5 kilometers away. That's something. All these vehicles are good, really, but do remember 3 simple rules when you drive any of these tank destroyers though. First, always flee from bombs, whatever their size. Second, always flee from artillery strikes. Third, always flee from enemy aircraft. All these rules owe it to the fact that the turrets on all these vehicles are open-topped, which are a perfect target for high explosive shells, machine gun fire, and shrapnel. At the very top of the food chain here are the majestic T-28 and T-95, the proverbial tortoise on tank threads. They're about as slow as the German mouse, but the Germany's big rodent is inferior to them in both the firepower and frontal armor departments. The American vehicles have 305mm of steel for front armor. When up against them, your only hope to do any sort of damage is to target the commander's cupola or attack it from the side, or better yet, the rear. Overall, these vehicles are light and scarcely armored, if compared to their Soviet or German counterparts, that is. But thanks to these traits, playing them is an entirely different affair, where you have to bet on speed and mobility above all else. This was yet another episode of War Thunder Tutorials, signing out.